Welcome to What Matters, a podcast that looks inward at unique experiences, upward for divine direction, and outward at God's activity in the world. I'm Michelle Funk, your host, and I'm so glad you're with us today. You have a treat ahead. We have Wendy, Lyons, Chrostek here with us today, and I am so delighted to get to have conversation with her. And so, again, we just welcome you all as well. Oh, a little note, make sure you always subscribe, or if you haven't yet, hit subscribe so that you always get the next episode that we release. So again, hi, Wendy.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's such a joy to be with you, Michelle.
Yes.
And I'll introduce myself
Yes,
for those of you who don't know me. I'm Wendy Lyons Chrostek, as Michelle mentioned, and I'm on staff at Church of the Resurrection, and I've been here for, it'll be 12 years this summer. And both my husband Scott, and I are pastors on staff here, and my role is to lead Congregational Care, and that includes weddings and funerals and baptisms and one-on-one support and counseling and mental health. And I don't do all those things, but I serve with an incredible team of people and a team of volunteers who provide support and encouragement for those in our community, and it's pretty amazing. I'm also married. I mentioned my husband, Scott. We've been married for 15 years, and we have 2 kids. We have a little boy named Freddie, who is 5, and our daughter, Poppy, just turned 1. I can't believe it. So
that's right.
She was born right as COVID was happening and things were shutting down. So she's our little bright spot in the midst of what has been a crazy year.
Absolutely. Yay. Again, I'm just so glad to get to spend some time with you and talk. And the whole idea behind this podcast is first to introduce our listeners, viewers to amazing women who are leading. And so that's what's very fun for me to get to do. And then also just to talk about what matters. I mean, that's why we named it this. And so what matters?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, as I was thinking about what I would be sharing, I feel like there are a lot of things that matter to me. But the thing I would say personally right now that I've really been focusing on is honesty. And that's a sort of like a big, broad, wide topic. But I would say it's not only how can I be honest with myself, but how can I be honest with others and honest with God and encourage people to be honest with me. So I'll say as somebody probably living most of my life, my whole life, I have been a people pleaser and I want people to like me. And I think that sort of guides my desire to connect with and to care for folks. But I never want to do that at the expense of being honest and open with someone. And I think about the importance of the relationships that I have and the people. Some of the most profound and deep connections happen when we can be really truthful with one another and we can share what's on our heart in a way that is gracious and kind. The scripture passage that comes to my mind from Ephesians is to speak the truth in love. And sometimes the hard thing to say, or the hard thing, I would say for me on the other side, to receive is that someone might share an honest truth about their experience with me that I might not have seen or experienced myself. And, it sometimes takes me a moment to say, okay, I have to take a step back and to really listen. And I can't always process through something in that moment. But my immediate response is typically gratitude, to say thank you for your willingness to be honest and to share something with me, and that I can learn and grow from things that people share with me, and can really find ways to be more of, a welcoming presence for folks, to be honest.
Yeah. It seems like honesty, just from what you're saying, it's like the foundational building block of a relationship.
Absolutely.
And of course, there can be tons of great stuff that comes from being honest, but there can also be some challenges that come along the way, both as the speaker of honesty and the hearer, the receiver of honesty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but a building block nonetheless. Yeah.
I was thinking about stories or things in my own life and my own ministry, and I'll just share one of my last church, a church that I served prior to coming here. I had hurt someone's feelings, and I didn't know it. And this person had shared it with someone else, but never felt comfortable to share it with me. And I found out after the fact. So, after everything had happened. And I looked back and I thought, gosh, they were upset with me and hurt with me, and maybe they didn't feel comfortable sharing, or for whatever the reason, understandably, that they didn't want to share something, I wish I would have known. That I wish I would have had the opportunity to have a conversation with them, to apologize, to work through things. And when you think about honesty, I mean, undergirding that in so many situations is a chance for me to be able to hear it, receive it, and to say I'm sorry. And know that the other person, maybe they're not at a place to receive that quite yet, but them being able to share their honest feelings and their honest reflections and be open is such a beautiful and tremendous gift, so that on the other side, we can grow closer to one another.
Right.
And even in those conflicts, or like you said, those hard moments, to say something to someone, if I receive it with grace and with humility, that my life can be transformed and our relationship can come to a different level, because I know that there's trust. There's trust that has been developed and shared between the two of us, so that we can move forward. And I know that if there's something that they want me to know, that they would share it with me, and that I would do the same. And that mutual respect and that mutual trust is something that can really help us to move forward and deeper in relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you mentioned a response of gratitude. What a great practice maybe to set up for yourself is to say, because we're all going to, if we have people being honest with us, we're going to hear things that maybe we didn't realize and can learn. And so, I don't know, I feel like I might need to practice this a little bit. Just this first thing, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for sharing. And those words tend to prompt this response of humility and gratitude instead of resentment or even
defensiveness.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that, the other piece of honesty is a reflection and a recognition that I might not be able to respond the way that I want to in this moment. And even to be honest with the person and say, thank you so much. It's going to take me a little bit of time to process that. And can we have another conversation, or can we work through this? Or I just need a moment to allow that to sink in. And again, just to recognize what this looks like for me. I mean, I think in many ways I look to my son, Freddie. Like I said, he's 5 years old, and he has such an inquisitive mind. And sometimes we'll speak to him and we'll say things and he doesn't understand. And he just sort of pauses and stops and says, well, what does that word mean? We're driving in the car and he'll say, I'll say something and he'll want to know, well, what does that word mean? And I'm like, oh gosh, I need to explain that to you. You didn't understand it. You didn't know that before. And he's not afraid. We tell him all this list of things that define who he is, and he's so inquisitive. So we try and lift that up and say, it's good to ask questions. And it's good to say, it's really important for us to say, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know how to do this thing, and be able to be honest with someone else but we need help. Because we sometimes might like to say, oh, I've got it all figured out, but we don't. And to look to the people around us and to be, again, humble enough to say, I need some clarification, or I need you to help me understand what this means and what I need to do.
Yeah. Our kids are the best models and teachers, aren't they? If we would just pause and learn from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So, you kind of mentioned his characteristics. I think with honesty, it's important to know ourselves as well and our characteristics. So I just wonder, are you in the Enneagram at all? Do you know?
A little bit.
Yeah,
so,
we don't need to dig in, but, just do you know your type?
Yes, I think so. For those of you who don't know the Enneagram, I'm still sort of learning. Actually, it's my book's over there. But I just ordered a new book from Suzanne Stabile, who came and spoke to the women's conference, and who's really marvelous. I have done so many different tests and things to learn deeper about who I am. So I think that I'm a 3 with a 2 wing, which means I'm pretty driven and I want to succeed. And I've been that way since I was a child, but also a very caring person. But I could be wrong about that. But regardless, it takes me moments and times to think back. I need to be honest with myself about the things that make me me and that make me really special and unique. But but also what are my shortcomings? What are the pitfalls that I might have? What are the things that I might sink into when I'm in an unhealthy place? And then, I mean, you even talked about situations, and you and I were talking a little bit earlier about what defines our COVID moments.
Yeah.
And you were talking about your family and
Right.
how you each have your own little designated space during the season of COVID.
Right.
And what I know for me is I am a better person if my space is cleared a little
Yeah.
bit. So like before I begin my day, I'm picking things up and moving things around and, saying, I just need my space to be a little cluttered free so that I can focus. And I know that about myself. And if I'm in a space that feels like I'm really stressed out, what are the things that I can do that feel life-giving to me? Just to be able to say, okay, sometimes play is really fun for me. This summer we bought a swing set in our backyard, and I love to swing. Like there's just something about it that's so freeing and so fun. And if I'm having a stressful day or time, like there were times this summer when I would just go swing outside in the middle of the night with no kids there, just me. And it really helped me to sort of find some joy in the midst of crazy seasons and situations. So knowing not only honesty with like, what are my struggles? What are the things that are hard for me? But knowing, gosh, what are the things that bring me joy? And when I need it, if I can just take a moment to find that joy is really important.
Absolutely. Yes. It's sometimes hard to look in the mirror and to get to know yourself, but it's when you do that, it's so worth it because then the stressors, you also know the life givers,
Right.
And you can manage the stress and then also set up intentional experiences of what gives you life,
And just even as you were thinking about that, also in reflecting and connecting with my husband, there are moments that I'll say, this isn't about you, this is about me. And there was something that you said that it was totally benign. And because of my own insecurities, I heard something different. And it's not about you, but I just need to share with you my feelings, my emotions, because if I don't, then I'm missing an opportunity to connect with you. So I'll just be vulnerable and say, like, my parenting, like, there are things that I struggle with as being a working mom, or, just knowing that the way that I parent is different than my husband, and we're both seeking to do the very best that we can, and we're trying to show love. But, there are moments that I feel really insecure about things, and to be able to be honest and say, hey, like, here's me, here's my stuff that I'm working with and I'm kind of processing through, and so that he's aware and knows that I'm not projecting something upon him, but I can really take a step back and say, hey, I need to work on this for my own self and be clear about that.
Yeah. That helps so much in that marriage relationship. So let's talk a little bit about being honest with God.
Yes. So, I mean, growing up, I never really understood how honest I could be. I think, I grew up in the church. I grew up going to church my whole life, and confirmation, for those of you who you're not part of the United Methodist Church, may not know a ton about confirmation, but it's, when you're in middle school, kind of making a determination and a decision to continue to make God part of your life and connect deeply with the church. And it was really important for me that my mom gave me the opportunity to say, well, do you want to be confirmed? Do you want your relationship with God to be something that continues forth? And it was for me. But I always sort of felt like I was supposed to perform, like I was supposed to be perfect, and my prayers were supposed to be exactly, there were same prayers that I would say at night, and if I messed up, I felt badly, and it took me a long time to realize that, God just wants us as we are, and yet isn't going to leave us there, is going to help us continue to grow. Because our life, if I was the same as I was when I was age 5, then that wouldn't be helpful.
Right.
But God's grace is so much bigger and says, I love you as you are, and I want to help you grow. And part of what that looks like is being truthful and honest with whatever it is that I'm experiencing. So if in that moment it looks like pain, if it looks like hurt, if it looks like doubt or confusion or anger or uncertainty, I mean, like all these things, all these emotions that if we feel like all we can be is happy and joyful towards God, then we're limiting that relationship.
Right.
We're not sharing the depth of who we are with God, and God already feels that and connects with us in that way. But it's sort of an opening for us to say, I'm going to give you all the parts of me, like not just the pretty parts, not just the social media parts, the pieces that we want everybody to see. I'm going to give you all of me, and when we do that, it really does allow for a deeper relationship with God. And if you're not familiar, the Psalms for me they continue to be something that I read every day, and they are really honest prayers, and they have some of the most deep, really powerful emotions that the psalmists are sharing, and really model for us what does it mean and what does it look like to be honest and to be open with God.
Yeah, I agree so much. The Psalms take you that full range,
Yes.
and for me, give permission that it's okay to cry out,
Right.
to even be angry, to experience despair, as well as to just be silly and joyful and to dance, or whatever it is, to sing. But so earlier, you talked about that kind of miss with a relationship at your previous church, maybe. I feel like that can apply here to our relationship with God. Yes, God knows us. We're created in God's image. But it's a miss if we don't work on this idea of being just really open and honest. It's a miss for kind of a really deep and meaningful and tangible, I don't know if that's the right word, but just like a living relationship with this, what can be like this big God of the universe. I feel like I miss out if I'm not able to just be vulnerable, be honest, be who I am, and get past the idea of having to maybe be perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
I think about one of the important things for me is to recognize who do I know God to be? And above all else, for me, God is a God of grace. God is a God of love. God is the God who sees me and knows who I am and understands deeply and loves me beyond all measure. And whatever it is that I've done, whatever way I can come to God, that God would always respond back in a way of love and grace and would say, I see you. I understand what it is like to be with whatever it is that you're feeling in this very moment. And I want nothing but to help you grow. And to not to say, okay, I have these shortcomings, I have these things, if for those of you who have children, like there are times that your children will drive you crazy and that's normal, that's okay.
Right.
But that never takes away my love for, for my son, for my daughter, and God, how much more so, does God look at us and say, maybe there's some disappointment in a decision that we made, and there may be consequences that have to happen because of the things that we've done, but God will never stop loving us.
Yeah.
And when we are able to, come forward and say, here's my life, here's everything about me, to know that God's response is not going to be one of, punishment or, sort of being angry at us. God is going to speak to us in love, and that allows us in a way to say, I can be fully present and be fully who I am and know that God receives me and loves me deeply.
Yeah. This is such a silly little example and story, but our phones these days, I happen to have a phone that has facial recognition.
Oh, right, right.
And I'm always so pleased when that works, except for like first thing in the morning. And I'm a, mess and whatever, and just getting up and getting going. Maybe even haven't had my coffee yet, which is unfortunate that I look at my phone first thing in the morning. But it recognizes me. Yeah. I'm kind of like, seriously? But I mean, it's just a silly illustration of how God knows us all the way, all the good, all the bad, all the gunk, all the great, and what a gracious thing that is.
Yeah. I've worked with a coach a while back, and she introduced me to a description of what joy is. And joy is, I'm glad to be with you. And God is always joyful, and God is always glad to be with us. And that for me has been something that God delights in every opportunity that we have a chance to be connected. And how much more so can we be joyful when we are with people, when we can say, I'm glad to be with you in the pain, in the hurt, in the whatever emotion that is. I'm just delighted and joyful that I have the opportunity and blessing to be with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So, this idea of just when we have those moments of not being honest.
Mm-hmm.
So we might start out with something like little
Yeah.
that then
Becomes bigger.
Yeah.
So I read an article in the New York Times several years ago, and it's been something that has really shaped me and made me think really clearly about the things that we say. And it was an understanding that small lies lead to big ones. And it's not even about the same particular thing, but our brain doesn't always know the difference. So our brain can become desensitized to lies that we might say. So if we make small white lies, the more that we say them, the more that we don't even realize, we don't even recognize that it's actually making an impact. So if we lie about something, we lie about how fast we are driving. If we lie about, whatever small thing it might be, did you put the coffee cup away? Yes, I did. No, in fact, I didn't. It's so small or whatever it might be. But if we lie about it, the next time it's a little bit easier to lie. We don't feel that tinge of like, oh no, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't truthful. And it means that on the bigger things, we were open to them. And I think back on in experiences of working with and connecting with congregants and folks who have done things, they've said, gosh, I never would have imagined that, just even a small step, a small thing that I did would make me more susceptible to something bigger, because I didn't, none of us seek and set out to do something hurtful and harmful to others, but it's sort of small things that kind of can open the doorway into doing something more hurtful and harmful. And so as small, like I said, so as small as it might be, like just being really honest and saying, oh, maybe, I forgot to do that thing. Not trying to cover it up as much as we sort of might want to, but say, okay, I'm just going to be truthful. I'm going to be honest in this moment. And there are times too, even if as hard as it might be, if there's a sort of like a fib that comes out, if you stop yourself and say, that wasn't truthful. Let me go back. Let me circle back around. I'm going to be honest with you. And that might not be in that very moment. It might be later on. But what a gift of respect and truth that you can share with somebody else.
Right. Yeah. So interesting how our brain works, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And to think, gosh, what are the actions that I'm taking now that are going to help me continue to be better? And so the more truth that I tell, the more it's like almost feels like a muscle. Like, okay, I have to practice this. I need to practice what it means to be honest. I need to practice what it means to be truthful to the people around me who are, especially, those who are really close to me. How can I begin to practice this so it becomes a little bit easier? And it may be awkward and hard at first, but to trust that. And in our prayers, I'm a journaler, so I have my little, I'm a journaler. I love to write things down. That helps me to really kind of reflect and focus. And I don't always really kind of go back and read them, but I write letters to God all the time. That is my way of connecting and my way of prayer. And there's something about, putting a pen to paper and writing some things out that helps me to say what's really going on in my head and my heart. And I'll even find that I may start in one place and then I end up in another place. Like maybe I'm starting in hurt or in confusion. And then by the time I'm done, it's okay, I'm feeling better about this. I'm feeling in a different spot. And just sort of allowing myself to walk through all of those emotions can be a beautiful experience for me.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so good. I love this idea of honesty, and that it, like you just mentioned, it's a muscle to strengthen, to work out, or however. And we said earlier, so a couple things that we can do is, if somebody needs to be honest with me, and I have practiced this idea of hearing something maybe I didn't really want to hear, but responding with thank you. Thank you for being honest with me. Thank you. And then turning that into an opportunity to learn and grow.
Right. Absolutely.
Instead of pushback. And then you're just mentioning, about how to avoid these small lies becoming big things and saying, wait, that wasn't honest. I want to be honest with you. That's another thing I think I would love to practice, like, okay, let me be honest about that. Because the coffee thing.
Yeah.
Did you put water in there?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, let me be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't. I used every last drop of the water in the tank. But, so there's some good ways that we can practice and develop this muscle of honesty in our lives, in our minds, and in our hearts.
Yeah.
And how good would that be?
And, just thinking about, we talked about being honest with ourselves. And so saying, what am I feeling right now? Let me be honest with, where am I right now? What's going on in my heart? And am I in a good space? Am I in not a good space? And sometimes that might look like I need to take a moment, take a step away in order to care for myself. Or if I'm speaking, connecting with someone that I love, or in my time with prayer, to say, let me check in with myself. How am I feeling? What's going on right now? What's really at the root of, am I thinking about something that happened 2 hours ago that I can't quite let go of? Well, maybe I just need to be honest and work through that before I can move on. Or bringing those things to God in our prayer and saying, okay, God, this is hard for me. It's hard for me to really share what's going on, and I'm just going to try it out and see how it goes. And having those little moments of, I'm going to try and do it. And when you do, the more that you do, the easier it feels.
Yeah. Practice makes good.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Well, let's end with this. So honesty is important. Important to be honest with ourselves, with others, and with God. And honesty is something that can be practiced.
Yeah, absolutely.
And modeled and grown and strengthened. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, who are if you're looking to make this more of a practice, who are the people that you trust in your life? Because not everybody will receive honesty well. And who are the people that have earned the right for you to share those things with?
Right.
And God, absolutely. But maybe you're not quite there yet. Maybe your relationship with God doesn't feel like I can go there. But who are the people that you can trust? And who are the people that you can be honest with, and that can be honest with you, and to say, we're just going to do this. We're going to try our best to be open and share with one another, and use that as a place to continue to grow.
Yeah. Love it.
Awesome.
Love it. Wendy, thank you.
Thank you. This was really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this to us, and as an encouragement too, because it's just such an important part of life to develop relationships.
Absolutely.
And honesty makes a big difference. So.
Yes.
Yay. Good.
Fantastic.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me too. This was really fun.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us on the What Matters podcast. I'm Michelle Funk again, just reminding you to subscribe, get all of our upcoming episodes, and giving a round of applause for this time together with Wendy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So that was fun.
Oh, good.
That was fun.
Good.
I was going to try to end with, so let's be honest, but I couldn't think of like just something. So let's be honest. Does my hair really look okay?
Yes.
So I love that. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much. Yeah.
Thank
I might
you.
add the Ephesians verse.
Oh,
Remind me,
4:15.
Yeah.
Ephesians 4:15.
And then did you reference a particular psalm?
No,
Okay,
I just said the Psalms in general.